This was my eldest reading a comic book in Korean. It took us 4 years to go from reluctant reader in English to avid and independent reader in his languages. So English, French and Korean. And today I want to make a more personal video to share our own journey, the thinking behind our decisions and our challenges. So I hope you'll be able to take the lessons I share to apply them to your own child's multiliteracy journey. I'm Yoshito Shimamori, the founder of the Library for Multilinguals, a secondary school language teacher, and a dad to my two sons that my wife and I are raising with French from me, Korean from my wife, and English from the school and the environment because we live in the UK. Before I start, I want to emphasize two things. The first one is the fact that it took us 4 years. So it took a lot of time before getting there. And I detailed that. But for French, it took about 8 months. And for Korean, it took quite a lot of time to take off. Then the second thing is that when I say independent, I mean that they can read on their own, but also that they want to read. And this is a topic I'm going to cover in 2 videos. So today is the first video where I'm going to explain the first step. So how we went from reluctant reader in English to enjoying reading in English. And in my next video, I share with you how we went from there to French and Korean. So if you don't want to miss this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon. My son's multilingual journey began in a way about 25-30 years ago because it started with me as a teenager struggling to read and write in Japanese while growing up in France. And that's me in Japan with my family and friends. And the moments I spent with them made being able to speak Japanese really worth it. I loved being able to speak Japanese with my family, my friends, so I spoke quite well, but reading and writing felt a little bit like an even better if you want. I would be living my whole life in France, so why bother learning to read and write in Japanese? As an adult now, I realize what I missed by not being able to read and write better. The main thing is that I couldn't expand my vocabulary and found it more and more difficult to converse with my peers. And when I became a dad, I wanted to make sure that my sons had a better experience than me. So I focused on 2 aspects. The first one, helping my sons see how much fun they can get out of reading in general, like in any language. And I wanted to make their experience of learning to read and write in their home language, so French and Korean, a fun and relevant one. So I didn't want to make it look too academic. And I want them to see what it brings to be able to read and write in all their languages. So my first aim is to make sure that my sons enjoy reading. Because if they get pleasure out of reading, they would carry on their own. So from the moment my eldest was born, it was really frequent for us to sit down or lie down and read together and changing our voices to match the different characters. And as a full-time teacher, I would only really see my sons in the evening and on the weekend. So reading bedtime stories was the fun thing we would do together every day. And this is a habit we have been carrying on since then. One thing that I want to stress is that living in England, books in English are a lot easier to get. So we have read books in English as well as French and Korean. The aim was for them to enjoy reading in general, not necessarily in one language or another. It was really about the pleasure of reading. I think this habit plays a big role in this. But now, when they read stories with many laughing out loud moments or people shouting, you hear my sons reading them out loud to themselves or each other to enjoy.
16 bagels!
So creating this love of reading hasn't been too difficult to instill. But learning to read and write hasn't been all that simple. There is this saying that says you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. And as a teacher, I can see on a daily basis that it's always easier to teach something to someone, anyone, when they want to learn it. In England, children start to learn to read and write when they're all 4 or 5 years old. And at that age, my son wasn't really interested. And he likely saw it as an unnecessary effort. Like, he got some books, decodable books from school, but he found it very hard to read and probably not that fun. So I started creating little treasure hunts where he had to find clues in different places that led to a treasure. And here the challenge was the same. It was difficult for him to read and decode the words, but he was rewarded instantly with the little chocolate or cookie or cartoon that we watched together, because that would be the treasure. So he would go from one bit to read to another one to get to this reward. And here you can see my youngest doing an obstacle course to revise for vocabulary test. So I'm going to link this video as well in the description. So the first lesson here is make it purposeful with immediate rewards. So at that stage, he already enjoyed the stories we're reading together, but because he didn't see the point of reading on his own and saw it as a tedious task, we made sure that he was rewarded quickly with fun activities that made the effort worth it. In a previous video, I mentioned the ratio 80% of fun for 20% of effort. So if an activity is a lot of fun, my son didn't mind putting a bit of effort. This is proportionate. So the bigger the fun, the more effort he would put. And little by little, these little activities combined with reading together on a daily basis helped him want to read more and more on his own. So that concludes our first video on how my son went from being a reluctant reader in English to a avid reader and independent reader in French, Korean and English. If you want to watch the next video, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when the video comes out. See you next time!
서프라이즈.